Hey, welcome back. I'm Normal from Nowhere. This is the final section of this tutorial. We are going to be creating these two remaining sections, the frequently asked questions section and this footer. And what makes this section interesting is we have an interactive component, also known as an accordion. So when I press on it, it expands to reveal more content inside. First, let's do a review of how far we've come. Okay, let me show you in Framer instead. So we have learned how to add images, even background images. We have added rows as stacks. We have added columns. We have stacked them into a section. We have added left and right section as well. Left and right here too. Left and right here. All easy stuff, right? Nothing difficult. So now we are going to get started with the FAQ section. So what do we need? First thing we need is more space here. So I'm just going to drag this down and I'm going to create a new section using the frame tool, pressing F. Actually, you know what? I think I should install the software that shows the keyboard shortcut on screen as I'm pressing. Hold on. Let me install it right now. I now have my frame and let's try and analyze what we have here. So we have a title and some accordions, which are interactive, very interesting. And we have this CTA section. Okay, so let's tackle them one by one. First things first, what's the easiest thing we can do? Change the fill color to black. And the second thing is bring in this title text. I already have this, so I'll just copy, select this, paste, and gonna come here, copy this text, Command A to copy everything, Command V to paste. Now, how do I get this width to fit the contents perfectly? Pretty easy. Width, good fit content, fits all the content inside. Easy peasy, you know how to do this. So what's next? This accordions, let them be for a while. Let's focus on this section, this text, right? So I'm just going to copy this beforehand. And you know how to do a text? Press T, press Command V. We have our text. Okay, so Framer automatically give it a style. We haven't expanded on the styles topic for now. So I'm just going to remove this by pressing this X icon. And font, I'll just give it Inter. Color, I'll give it white. And size, let me give it 24, maybe 26. So I'm going to position this in the middle. And what else do we have? We have this CTA section. I think we've already created the CTA section, haven't we? Yup. So I'm going to copy this, but make sure that you're copying the CTA, the parent frame, right? But not just this. So we want the parent frame selected, Command C to copy, come down, press the section, press Command V. We have this. Cool. Okay. This text, I think this should be 24. Right, that looks good. So now, what do we have? So we have this accordion section. What is Netflix and a plus icon? So text, a plus icon, enclosed in a frame. So press F to create the frame. Okay. And what else? Color. Okay, let's do color. What is it? Dark gray, darkish gray. Okay. Just remove this fill dialog box with our frame selected. I'm going to press T to bring in the text element. Type what is Netflix. Okay, we've got a text in place. Now, what else do we have? We need the plus icon. Now, one of the interesting things about Framer is this is inbuilt in the tool. So I'm going to come here on the top left, insert, and under icons, can you see I've got a bunch of different icon providers. I can select any of these. So I'm going to select Dinky Minky Ponky Feather. Here we go. So Feather, I'm going to put it in its place. And now I'm going to go down, scroll down. Can you see the feather component? It's here. So the name is home. As you can see, it's a home icon. So I'm going to press the icon, and from home, I'm going to search for a plus icon over here. Or I could have simply just typed PLUS plus. There I have it, plus icon. It's white in color, so I'm going to choose the color white, F. So we now have this, but I want to make sure that these two are in a stack. Okay, before that, let me show you an interesting thing called component. So this is the most important part of this video, right? Creating interactive components like these. And we have already used component in our file, where this plus icon is a component. This is a component created by some other person, and we are using it in our file, right? So what this means is they have a master copy somewhere, which they published online, and then we're using it as a copy. And we copied a variant of the master component, and it's been using in our file. And we have some edits we can make, for example, color. Okay, so what exactly is a component? Basically, anything interactive in Framer, we'll be using components to create them. And what do I mean by that? So let's have a look at our Netflix website. You can see that once I put my mouse on top of this question, can you see the color changes from dark gray to a light gray? And when I press it, an extra content expands down below, right? So these are interactions. And for these kind of interactions, in Framer, we'll be using components. So what is the easiest one we can see? This hover. Can you see on hover? So this is known as a hover, right? The mouse over the element, the hover. So to create this, we first will make this into a component. So I'm going to right click with the frame selected, make sure the frame is selected. I'm going to right click and create a component. I'm going to give this name, component name of question, hit enter to create. And now this takes us to a separate canvas, primarily for components. So whatever changes we make here to these components, it's only for the components, not for the page itself. Now, if you want to go back to our home page, you can come here to this breadcrumb. So this is known as a breadcrumb trail. I can go back to home by pressing home. And if I want to go back into edit mode, I just double click. Easy so far? Cool. So now let's create that hover effect. So can you see that when I press on this variant, so what does variant mean? I'll get to that. So when I press on this, press on the name, so this is the variant 1 called primary. So the primary is like our master copy, all right? And when I select this, you can see that I get options like to create another variant or to create a hover or pressed variant. So what I want is hover variant. So when I hover, I want the color, the background color to change. So with my primary variant selected, I'm just going to press on hover, select hover, and I get a copy of the element, but now I can edit its properties. So for example, the fill. So I can just select the color from dark gray to a light gray. Close this. And now I'm going to go back home, preview the site, and let me show you what it achieved. So when I put my mouse on top of the frame, can you see the color changed from dark gray to light gray? That is the hover variant. Cool. That's component. It's easy, right? So let me double click and go back to the component canvas and tell you more about variants. Variants is basically a variant. It's a variant of one master copy. What do I mean by that? Let's give an analogy of cats. So we have lions, tigers, cheetah. They all have different physical properties, but they all are practically the same. They have 4 legs, they've got a tail, they've got a big jaw, and they're ferocious, right? And we have the domestic house cat. It's small, it's cute, and it's still ferocious, but it has similar physical properties. Why do I bring up variants is because, let's come back to the Netflix side. Can you see when I hover on top of this frame, the hover variant is active. But when I click on it, it expands to give us some more text. So this can be counted as a third variant of this primary component. Okay, let me repeat myself. So we have the base variant, right? And when I hover, it gives us the hover variant, which has a different set of properties. In this case, it's just a background color. And when I press on it, it expands to give us more content, which is the third variant. Cool? That's simple, right? It's pretty easy to understand. So basically, let's say this is a lion. When I hover on top of it, it becomes a tiger. When I click on it, it becomes a leopard. Right? So that's a easy, stupid analogy. So let's go back to our component canvas and let's create that extended open variant. So let me open this up and first copy all these text, Command C beforehand. There are many ways that we can create these components, and I'll teach you in as easy way as I can. So first, I'm going to select this hover variant and bring it all the way down because, we're going to have this extended state down here. And before I bring in the content down here, what I want to make sure is that my elements are laid out properly. And what I mean by that is I want to select these two elements and bring a stack around them. And I'm just going to name this question. And what I'm going to do is I want them to the sides. Now, can you see any change I make here on the primary variant is copied here on the hover variant because it's just a copy of these. This is a primary, right? So I want them to be on the edges. So I'll just use distribute from center. I'll change it to space between. That it's always on the sides. You remember this, right? And now I am going to select this primary variant and make sure that there is always some consistent spacing here, right? Because right now, the width of this question frame now, the question frame now encloses our two elements, right? So this question frame actually has a width of fixed value, 1010. But if I change it to fill, so if I want to change it to fill, and why do I want to change it to fill? Is because what if it's on a tablet or on a phone? I want it to fit according to the screen size, right? So for that, I want this to fill only the available space. But right now, it has a fixed value, so I want it to fill primary variant itself, which is the parent element of question, and turn it into a stack. And when I do that, and then select question, and its width, I can now choose fill. But when I do that, can you see that it's now touching the edge? I don't want that. I want to give it consistent spacing. For that, I'm just going to go to padding and give 20 padding all around. You know what this means, right? You have already covered padding. So what this means is that there's 20 spacing from the left to the edge, from the top and the edge of this frame, and on the right and the bottom as well. And this space is fixed for padding, and whatever space we have here is for our frame called question. Okay, so far, pretty simple, right? Now, let's go into adding this extra content. So let's see, on pressing, we get this extra frame. So I'm just going to copy this text first, and then I'm going to create that frame down here. Oh, hold on. Yeah, there we go. Now that's right. And I can change its color from fill, choose this color picker tool to pick this dark gray color. So I've got a frame. But one thing you must have noticed, the layers panel, is the frame is not a part of the variant. It's outside. So how do I bring that in? I'm just going to click and drag on the variant one, and I'm going to use my arrow key to bring it down, or I can just bring it down like this, right? So now you can see that this frame is a part of this variant. Okay, but we can't see that frame any longer. Why do you think that is? Because the frame's height has been set to fixed. But if you change it to fit content, it now expands to fit the content below it. Now that makes sense. We have already covered fit content, right? So now with my frame selected, I'm going to paste the text. So I'm just going to use the text tool, right? Click here and paste the text I've already copied. But hey, now this has expanded beyond the space available to it because it is fit content. So, but I wanted to fill only the space available inside the box, but fill has been grayed out. So why? Because the parent has to be a stack. Correct. So I'll just choose the frame, select the frame, and click on layout to give it a stack. And I can then select my text and choose its width as fill. Okay, so far, pretty easy, right? Now there's some extra spacing here, and now let's analyze why this is. Why? Because the frame, which is now a stack, let me just double click and rename this to answer. Can you see by renaming our layers, it becomes much more easy to work on things. So with my answer selected, the frame selected, its height is currently fixed. So I'll just give it a height of fit content, so it's only as tall as the content inside it. But now we come to the same problem. It's to the edges, right? So can you see the text? It's right away to the edge of the frame. Over here, can you see? When I select the answer frame and then the text frame, there is no space between them, right? But there's space below that. Hey, but why is there space below when there's no space on the sides and the top? Because if you remember, we gave a padding to the parent element variant 1. There's a padding of 20. See, can you see that green? Right, so that's our padding value, right? Let me just undo that. So there's a padding below, but there's no padding over here because the answer frame currently has a width of fixed, right? So from fixed, if I just change it to fill, now it's going to fill only the space available to it, and it fills up all the space except the space reserved for padding. Make sense? Okay, so now we have our content here. What else? What else do we have? Okay, the padding on the top. And a gray line separating the question, the answer. Okay, so how can we give padding at the top to our answer? So I'm going to select the text's parent frame, which is answer, and give it padding. But I just want to give padding to the top because the side and the bottom has already been taken care of by its parent, variant 1. So with my answer selected, I'm going to click on this button, and just the top, I'm going to give it a padding of 20 pixels. Can you see? It just gave us some padding here. And we want this line. So this is basically a border for this frame, right? So how can we add borders? So with my answer frame selected, just select the answer frame, come down, and under its properties, we can see there's a border property which we can edit. So let me select this and give it a color just to show you, give me a color of red. Now, can you see the border? This is the border of the frame. This is its size, right? But we only want it on one side. So what can we do? See a similar button to the padding, right? So just click on this and we can now select individual sides to give the border to. So for left, we can give 0, bottom is 0, right is 0. And we only want it on the top. Looks good. Yeah? So now I'm going to select the parent frame and change the color to black. Okay, we can see that. Hey, we are getting pretty far. Okay, we have this. We have exactly what we need, but we want this to work only when we click on this, right? So what we actually want is we want to create a third variant, which is open, right? So if I just click on, with my variant 1 selected, I can just click on plus variant to create a new variant. And I want this to open only when I click on the question, right? So with my question frame selected, and I zoom in, can you see that I get this icon, this lightning icon, right? So this is an interaction, right? So when I click and drag, I can now select my variant 2, and it's going to work the way we want. And by that, what I mean is when I click on this question, it's going to take us to this variant. Now let's call this variant. Now let's name this open, right? Open. But we have two open states. So we want our primary variant to be actually closed. And what we can do is we can take our answer frame and give it a visible property, which is under styles, of no. Right? So when you give it a visible property of no, it is hidden from view on the closed variant. But we can come to open and we can make individual changes to each variant. So for open, I'm going to come on the layers. Can you see the answer? It has been grayed out because we did visible no. But just for the open variant, I can select the answer layer and give it a visible property of yes. Now, it is visible only in this variant, but it's not visible in the closed or the hover variant. Makes sense? So let's go back to home and preview our site to show you what I really mean. So when I scroll down, so hover is working perfectly. And now when I click on it, we are getting the content. There's some problem with it, but we are making progress. So when we click, we can see the content inside. But the problem is that when you click, it's showing only a portion of it. Why do you think that is? Because, now let's go back to home. Because this frame in the home canvas has been set, its height has been set to fixed. Can you see? The question component has now been set to fixed. But from fixed, if I do fit content, what will happen is that when I press on it and it opens the extra content down below, the height is going to adjust and increase to accommodate the extra content. Let me show you. Let me preview this and let me click. Now, can you see another thing? When I hover over this, we get that hand cursor instead of a pointed cursor. That's because Framer knows that on clicking, there is some kind of interaction that's going to happen, right? Let me click. Hey, but I'm still getting only a portion of the content. Why is that? Let's see. Height. Oh, I set the width to auto. My bad. Now let's select the height and set it to fit content. Now the height has been set to fit content. Let me preview this site again. Scroll down and click. Look at that. It works. Now let's look at our Netflix site. Very similar. Cool. But when I click on the question again, it closes the box. Why is this not closing the box? Because we haven't added the interaction yet. So let's add that interaction. Double click to go to the canvas. And now with our open variant selected, what we want to happen is when I click anywhere on this question, we want to go back to the closed state, right? So for that, we can do the same thing with it. So I'm going to select this lightning icon, which is an interaction, click and drag and leave the mouse. Here we go. Now this points to here, which means when I click on this from the open state, it goes to the closed state. Let's have a preview of this. So let's go scroll down, click on it, opens, click on it, closes. How cool is that? Right? So we have completed one portion of it. Now, let me show you another cool thing about components. I can just click and duplicate, Command D, or copy paste. And let me just preview the site again. It works. Since it's a copy of the component, it still works. But hey, look at that. On the first component, when I click on it, although it's expanding, it's not pushing this down below like it does here. So for that to work, what we need to do is we need to group these questions together and make it a stack. Why? Think about it. Because when we have stack, we have the option to fit content. So that way, our stack's height adjusts automatically depending on the contents inside. That is the same principles, yet again, fit content, stacks, fill, all the same things. Okay, so I can just click on this and let's see. Oh, but there's another issue with this. It's the same question. It's the same question, right? So when I double click to change the text, it's showing something known as variables. Why and what is variables? For that, let's see. We have this component which works, right? So we have it in our home as well, which works. Let me show you once again because it's really beautiful what we just did. It works, but this is the same damn content. Same question. We wanted to have different questions, right? But we can't just keep creating different components for 6 different questions to have different data inside of them. So what Framer helps us do is create something known as variables for our component. So all the elements inside our components, like this text, this answer, or this icon, we can actually create variables of them. Meaning, let me just show you what it means, right? So I'm going to double click and give it, and Framer automatically prompts us to create a variable, question variables, right? So this is the title, or I can just simply rename this to be question, right? Or just question text to be more descriptive. The default is what is Netflix, and this is the default. And text area, okay, let me let's just do text area, and I'll show you what that means. And let's click out. And what that enables us to do is we can now create a variable for this text and change the content inside. How? We can come back to home, click on this second component, and then when you scroll down with our component selected, can you see variant is closed? Okay, so this variant closed is the closed variant, which is this one, the main variant, and open is this variant, right? So you have now understood the concept of variants. Okay, so now the variable we created is question text, which is this one, question text, right? So what is Netflix? So from here, I can just select them, delete it, and give it the next question, which is how much does Netflix cost? So I'll just type it in. How much does Netflix cost? So this now has a different content from our main component. But when I double click here, it's still this. Why? Because this is just the primary component, the primary copy, the master copy. And this is just a variable of it, which we can make edits to. For example, the third question is where can I watch? So let me do this. So I'm going to select this, Command C, Command V to copy paste, and I'm going to drag the third one down, and where can I watch? So with my third component selected, I'll just come down to the question text and delete this. Where can I watch? This makes life so much simpler. Now, we can keep doing this for the remaining 3 questions, but before that, I want to show you this variant, right? So currently it's closed, and if you want to make any sort of edits, we can just choose open, and it's just going to open it up in the canvas so that we can make changes to it. And if you want to change it, you can just change it to closed. So now let's say we wanted one of these questions, the third question, to be open by default when we preview our site. So when you preview our site right now, all of these are closed, right? And all of these are closed. But if you wanted one of them to be opened for the site by default, so we can just select the third component under the variant from closed, we can just choose open. And when you preview the site, one of them will always be open by default. And we can close this if we want. So this is the power of components. Okay, so that's well and good, but what about the answers? The answers are still just the same. So let me double click on the primary variant, and under open, this text, right? This is the text we want to change. We want to give different answers to different questions. So what can we do? We don't have to create a new component. We can just create a variable. So to create a variable for these answers, I'm going to scroll down with this text selected under content. Can you see? This is the content we have currently. Netflix is a streaming service. So I'm going to press here to create a variable. So I'm just going to choose plain text. And I'm going to name this answer text. And so this creates a new variable. And this question text was our earlier variable which we created. And this is the current one, answer text. Do you want this to be text area? Yes. Right? And by text area, this is what it means. When we enable text area, we get this dialog box on our canvas when we want to edit. Okay? So I can click out of this. I can go back to my home canvas. And now, when I select my component, I can come down and edit my answers. How cool is that? So from where can I watch? Let me just copy this and paste it in the answer. There we go. Let's do the same thing which for the second question. How much does Netflix cost? Watch Netflix on a smartphone. So let me just copy this. How much does Netflix cost? Selected. Answer. Paste. And we want to see if it worked or not. From variant, let me just choose it to open. Yeah. So now let's go back to closed. This works. Let's go back. Let's take this back to closed. Still works. Cool. We have made quite a lot of progress. So now the challenge for you is to work on these 3 questions next. So let me just do one to show you how it's done. So Command C to copy, Command V to paste. I can drag this down. I can go down and select the question to how do I cancel, right? So I can just select text, type how do I cancel. Hold on, I'm getting a call. Silenced. Now for the answer, select all the text, Command V. Let's see if it worked or not. Open. How do I cancel? Netflix Festival, blah, blah, blah. That is working. Cool. So now the challenge for you is to create the next 2. Do it by yourself. Take your time, pause this video and come back. Welcome back. So I can now select this, Command C, Command V, drag this down and come down here, select the question. What can I watch on Netflix? Under question, I can Command A. What can I watch on Netflix? Right. As for the answer, let me just copy this text, come to answers, Command V, and let me see if that worked. Yes, that worked. Let me change it back to closed. So I need some more space down here. So I'm going to select this frame, the question, this FAQ frame. Oh, let me just rename this to FAQ section. Okay, with this frame selected, I'm going to increase its height. Okay, we have some issues here. So let me just drag it up and down like this. And Command C, Command V for the last question. What's the last question? Is Netflix for kids? Is Netflix good for kids? And for the answer, let me just copy everything I see here and paste it on the answer. Let me check if that worked on the open. This worked. Let me get it back to closed. So now we have completed all the questions. Let's give it a final preview to see how things are. Okay, everything is working except the obvious height problem we are having over here. Okay, so to fix this, what we are going to do is we are going to select all of our questions and right-click to add a stack around all our questions. Now, when you add a stack, we can then go under height, give it fit content, right? And then give it a preview. Hey, look at that. It's pushing other questions down below. So now we are almost there, almost there. Okay, works. But can you see for the final question, it's too close to comfort down here for this section. So what can we do? So we're just going to give the entire section a stack layout. Easy as that. For that, I'm going to select this question and this new question box which you created, and as well as this. Oh, hold on. This and this are individual elements. First, I'm going to add a stack around them. That has been added. I'm going to rename this as CTA section. I'm going to rename our rows as FAQs. Oh, I put GAQs. And give it FAQs. And where is our frequently asked questions down here? I'm going to move it up so that it's in order. And now with the entire section selected, I'm going to give it a height of fit content, and I'm going to increase the gap between them 40. And this is up top and down bottom. It's too close. So I'm going to give padding down. Actually, I'm going to give padding all around. Let's give it 40. Right. And now let's have a final preview of our section. Really look at that. Neat. And now works. Now, if it has worked perfectly for you, that's well and good. If it hasn't, then, for example, you can come up with some sort of issue where it's moving up, where the question, instead of moving down, it moves up, the extended part. That's because from the distribute center, what you can do is distribute start. If you just do distribute start, meaning it's going to expand from the top, that is the start, instead of expanding from the middle, right? So that's going to solve the problem if you had. So now let's move on to responsiveness. So under tablet, I'm going to select our section, drag it down. Now I'm going to go to the FAQ section, which houses all of our questions. With this FAQ section selected, you can see that the height is already auto, good, but the width is fixed, right? So for width, I'm going to change from fixed to fill so that it takes up only this space and doesn't extend, right? So with the fill done, I can now come to this question, and from fit, I can set it to fill. It works. Hey, it worked. And why did it work so nicely? It's because under the component, we had set this width of the question as well as the answer frame to fill. Cool? Okay, so for the remaining questions, you can do it but let me show you a shortcut. I'm going to select all of these questions from this. I'm going to select all of these questions by holding down Shift, and then from with fit, I'll change it to fill. Okay, awesome. I'm going to come down here, do the same thing. Okay, this is a challenge. Once again, do the same thing what we did for this section and this text. Ready? So section selected from fixed to fill, with the text selected from fit to fill. Oh, look at that. The height is an issue. What can we do to solve this? From height to fit, that's correct, but this didn't work. Why? This must be some issue with the parent. So let's say the parent. Oh yeah, it's fixed. Let's change it to fit. Hey, look at that. It worked. Okay. With our text selected, let me give it a center align and maybe reduce its size to 22. Nice. So let's do the same thing with our mobile. I'm going to reduce the size to 30 for this title, and I'm going to, hey, look at that. Although our question, okay, first let's just select the FAQ section, give it a width of fill, and the padding is too much, so I'm going to select the main FAQ section and give it a lesser padding of, let's say, 20. Or how much had we given here? Well, we hadn't given any padding here, had we? No worries. So with our FAQ section selected, I'm going to give it a padding of just 10. And with this selected, width is currently fixed for all of our questions. So I'm going to select them all by, on the layers section, on the layers panel, I'm going to select the first, hold down Shift, and the last, so all of them are selected at once. From fixed, I'm going to set it to fill. Okay, it works. What problems do we have more? Okay, this section, the CTA section, height is fit, but width is fill. So let me change it to fit. And, oh, hold on. It's the CTA section that needs to be worked on. So fixed, let me set it to fill. And height is fit content. And hey, Dolce, what's up? What's up, Dolce? Good boy. Good boy. You want to go out? Let me pause for a while, yeah? Sorry about that cute interruption. Okay. What were we working on? All right. So this section, right? So the entire CTA section has been set to fill and height to fit. That is good. And this text, I'm going to set it from fit to fill. Looks nice. Decrease the size a bit. 30 looks good. Give it a center align. Nice. So remember how from this component we could choose a variant from closed to open. Now let me show you one neat trick from mobile, right? So can you see that this is like too close over here? So I can just select our component, and with the primary variant selected, I can choose a new variant, right? And now this third variant we created is also pointing to this open variant, right? But we don't want that. Why? Because right now, what I'm trying to do is create a phone variant. Okay, so this is cool. So I'm going to select the open, and I'm going to duplicate that as well. But I do not want this third variant. Let's just rename this to phone. I can now click on this frame, the question frame, which has this interaction, which is pointing to the old open variant. And I'm going to click here and close it out. So it no longer points anywhere. And I'm going to give it a width of 390. Right, so this is for a phone variant. And I'm going to select the text here, and I'm going to reduce its size to 20 and reduce its size as well to 50. Okay, let me show you another trick. With holding down Shift and I press this arrow, see, it decreases or increases in increments of 10. Right, so 50, okay, 40 looks good actually. So now this is our phone variant, and this is where I want it to open. But I do not want any of the old interactions, So with the frame selected, I'm going to remove any interaction it has and then create a new interaction for phone. I want to go to variant 4 on tap. That's right. So let me rename variant 4 to phone open and decrease its width also. The entire parent frame space to 390 for phone and reduce its width to 40. This was 18, right? This was 18. And I'm going to select the text and reduce its size to 18 as well. Now, can you see that the old open and closed variant still have the original sizing, but it's just for our phone variant, which has different sizing. So now I want to click and drag from phone to phone open. And when I click on this icon or anywhere here, I want to go back to phone closed. Oh, let me rename this properly. All right, phone closed. So let me go back to home. And now let me select this component. And from closed, I can do phone. Can you see the size difference? Let me do it every other question. So with all of them selected, from variant closed to phone closed. How cool is that? How cool is that? That was pretty simple and easy, right? And that's the power of components. Nice. We have completed a very big chunk. You should be proud of yourself. Congratulations. Awesome. Now for the final section, the footer. So let's just create a section for it. And the easiest step is to give it a background color. And we have this text, questions, call, press T, Command V, questions, call. Hey, this portion of text has been given a link. Can you see up here? So I'm just going to remove the link. So that is just a normal text. And then Command D to duplicate the text. Command A to select all the text and give it FAQs. Just FAQ, I believe it is. Command D. Let's see. What's the other one? Media Center. Media Center. Command D to duplicate. Command A. What do we have? Ways to watch. Hey, Doji, what's up? Don't disturb me, bro. I'm working. Ways to watch. Command D. Cookie preferences. All right. Command A. Cookie preferences. I just took you out. Okay, cookie preferences. What else do we have? Speed test. Command D to duplicate this. Command D to duplicate this. Command A. Speed test. Okay, so now what we can do is Command D to duplicate all of them. Bring this here, Command D. All right, so we now have 15 of these, but they are not aligned properly, as you can see. So I'm going to select all of these 15 texts and add a frame around it. So when I add a frame around it, we can give it some layout. But this time we want to giving it stack, because you know what happens when you give it a stack. So let me just rename this to footer links, right? So when we give it a stack, when we give it a stack, it's just in one direction, right? It's either column or it's either rows or it's either columns, right? So what I want to do instead is give it a grid. So when I give it a grid, look at that. It's been neatly distributed and it has 2 columns and 8 rows for now. But what we want is 3 columns, right? So from 2, let me just increase it to 3. There we go. Worked. And some text are getting cut off, so I'll just select the footer links, which is the grid, and increase its width so that it fits everything. And from here, I'll just give it, we can't give it fill because the parent isn't a stack yet. So we can turn it into a stack later, but right now it works nicely. Can you see? Looks nice. It's good. So this is the grid. So you just use a new layout known as grid. We could have created a stack for these 5 and these 5 and these 5, 3 different stacks, and then club them into one stack as well. But grid just seems better, and I wanted to introduce that to you. Okay, so with that covered, we have this English text, this English button, and for now, let's just give it. Let's just give it a frame, right? Let's just give it a frame. Hold on, another distraction. Hey, but instead of creating a new, I think we already have this button somewhere up top on our nav. Oh yes, we do. So what we can do is right click and copy. Where else copy? All right, you just copy the language button and paste it. Oh, if I pasted this, oh, look at that. Do you know why that happened? We're going to undo it first. And that happened because this button has constraints set on it because of its parent. Since the parent is a stack, it has some width and some height. So to make that work, we can just give it another stack, or we can just create something new just to get the point across. So I'm going to give it no fill. I'm going to give it a border, border. I'm going to give it a radius of 5, and then I'm going to put the text English, nothing we haven't done before. Right, there we go. Introduce this. Okay, what else do we have? Netflix India, just text. So another text, boom. Netflix India. This has a smaller size. So let me give it team. Okay, and now this is a group. This is one group. So now I can turn this entire frame, which is footer. Let me rename this footer, and then give it stack, a row stack. Sorry. Yep, this is a row stack, and left align, and give it a gap of 30. Looks good enough to me. Let's give it some padding of 40 all around. Looks good to me. Okay, hey, look at that. We have made such a nice progress. Okay, we can also, what we can do is, for design purposes, you can right click and add a stack for them and do distribute start, give it a height of content, and give it the left align, give it a gap of 20. So these things doesn't seem new to you, do they? Pretty easy, right? Let's go to our tablet. Tablet looks good. Just the grid, we need to take care of the grid. So with my grid selected, I can just change its width here. And for a mobile, let me go to the grid once again and change its width. And for mobile, from column 2, I'm just going to give it to 2 columns. And row, oh, each row is good enough. Sorry, they did it automatically. And now, and width, I just set it to fill, right? And this is getting cut off because the section itself has a huge padding of 40. Let me just give it 10. There we go. See our texts now. And we can select all the text inside and give it a smaller font size as well. Okay, something like that. Looks good. So basically, we have achieved what we had set out to achieve. And there is one more thing. So now with the desktop selected, I can turn the entire desktop into a stack. Why do I want to do that? First, let me give you the reason. Can you see this huge gap here, this inconsistent gap between here and here and here? So to remove all that, since each of them are sections, right? So let's rename them. So we have the hero section, and this is our feature 1 section, right? Feature 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got the FAQ section, and we've got the footer. So let's position them properly. So hero section goes up top. Yeah. Footer goes all the way down. Feature 1 comes here right below hero section, feature 2 over there, feature 3 below feature 2, feature 4 below feature 3, FAQ, and then footer, right? So now, with the desktop selected, I can give this layout. So if I turn the entire page into a stack and give it a height of fit content, look at that. Look at that. The gap between the sections as well as the length of the entire page fits according to the content for tablet, phone, and desktop. You have just made an entire site which is fully responsive in under 3 hours. Congratulations! I am super proud of you. You should be super proud of yourself. But this is not the end, and we have not covered a lot of things. For example, we didn't cover CMS, we didn't cover transitions and animations, and the proper way to give layout. For example, there is some inconsistencies. For example, look over here. Can you see that this and this, like the space between the edge and the content, it's too much. So all these minute details are what you'll be learning more. But for now, this tutorial has come to an end. Thank you so much for sticking all the way through. Not many people do, so you are among just 20 or 10% of the people who stuck through, who followed through this tutorial, and you have now learned the basics, the fundamentals of Framer, and you can start learning more advanced stuff. Thank you for being a part of this. My name is Norbu. I'm from Nowhere. That's the name of my company, www.nowhere.so with a K, and I'll be teaching more of Framer stuff. Make sure to give this video a like if you enjoyed learning. You can subscribe to follow for more. You can comment down below what you'd like to see next. Happy working with Framer. Bye.